In 1970, there was an old lady named Mary. She was looking for a gift for her daughter Donna, not his child, but she was studying nursing at university. The lady entered an antique store, but it was a bit old. She chose his puppet as a bride, but was used, but it was beautiful. "I noticed, mister. I'm a very happy seller selling this doll." She gave this doll to her daughter on her birthday, and Donna rejoiced so much with this gift. Because she loved little brides, she took her to the little apartment where she lived with her friend Angie and put her next to her bed on a small table. But Donna began to notice something strange, that the doll was changing its place. At first, they were simple movements that were finding a different situation every time. She was sitting her back on a tablet, but she was surprised to be asleep on her stomach, different legs and hand movements as well, until then. She started putting the doll on the counter and going to college, and when she got back on the floor, or found her sleeping on the bed in her place of sleep. Angie also began to notice this, and they began to notice the presence of small paper throughout the apartment. It says, "Save me." And it was written in a childlike line, and it was like a child who wrote it, until the paper was very old and rickety. Donna and Angie tried to overlook what was happening until the day came after they couldn't overlook what was happening. They came back from college and found the doll somewhere other than her, where this time she was sitting on the bed, and under her hand a blood stain on the bed. They carried the puppet, but surprised. That blood drops come down from the doll's hand itself, but how? At this time, Donna Wangi decided to either get rid of this puppet or ask for help, and they kept arguing where one wants to get rid of it and the other wants to ask for help, so they know the truth. They finally agreed to call one of the spiritual mediators to understand what's going on and get rid of this weird puppet. Indeed, they found a spiritual mediator's number, where they called her, and she told them that the apartment they lived in was haunted by the spirit of a child named Annabelle Higgins. She was killed in the distant past, but not in the same apartment, but in the same place as the building where they live. And this kid is trying to communicate with Donna Wangi, and I'll ask her what to do. She told them that she would do a session of spiritual mediation to communicate with this child's soul. And she actually did this session, and the kid started talking some incomprehensible words. Two understandable words were, "I am afraid of him," and "I am alone." The mediator then told Donna Wangi that there was no harm. And so long as they know that this puppet is haunted by the spirit of his child, and if they treat it as just a puppet, it's not going to develop any further, and maybe all these things stop completely. Donna Wangi decided to stay on this puppet, and they called it Annabelle, relative to the child killed in the past. They had a friend who had studied him, Lou, who was always visiting them, and when he saw this doll there, he said, "I feel like this doll is a source of curses," and he advised them to get rid of it. And every time he saw this puppet, he would make her face to the wall, and one day he would sit in the apartment with them, late, and he would sit on the couch until he fell asleep, sitting in his place. And Donna Wangi came out to buy them some stuff. Lo's hair, sleeping with a prick in his foot, woke up but his eye refused to open, tried to move out of place but couldn't move. He was quite awake and felt everything, but he was paralyzed, and he started to feel something made of fabric moving on his feet, going up in the direction of his stomach until he got to his chest. As soon as this thing went up to his chest, he felt so choked, he felt his breathing was impossible. He tried to shout, but he couldn't, and as Donna Wangi entered the apartment, it was all over. He opened his eyes and he could stand, and he yelled at them and told them where you were. I was getting a wave of revenge for this damn doll, and they laughed and told him it must have been a dream or a nightmare. But he left the apartment and told them to stay with you until you were subjected to this curse, and the next day he went to Donna Wangi. Because they had an exit date, he was standing in front of the apartment door and didn't get in, but while Donna and Angie were out on the door. They heard a scream coming from Donna's room, but they found nothing. He took Lou looking in the rest of the rooms. He might find something, but he didn't find anything. Donna Wangi is standing in silence, while Lou is searching a corner of the room. He yelled and said that he felt a lot of pain in his chest, and, while trying to tell them, he was surprised that there was a spot of blood, and consisting of the shirt that Lou was wearing. Lou took the t-shirt off, and if so, he finds 7 wounds as if they were deep scratches. Donna Wangi said it couldn't be the soul of a child who caused that wound. Don turned to the church and told everything that happened to Father Hogan, who discussed it with Father Coco and shared it with their friends, the couple. Ida and Lauren are specialists in the world of beyond nature, strange phenomena, and dealing with organisms and spectrums. Days later, Ed and Lauren decided to visit Donna W. Angie in their apartment. After examining the subject, they reached a very important conclusion, namely that the doll was not haunted by the spirit of his child, as the spiritual medium told them. But it fell under the influence of a demonic force, and it was this force that forced the mediator to lie. It means that the puppet is visited by a ghost and does not inhabit it forever, but rather to use it for some of its purposes. After Donna and Angie heard that, they asked to take this puppet with them. They said they'd take it, but they should do a permission session to get the puppet out of the place. They actually did this session, and during that, there was an interruption to light, and they heard sounds in the apartment. He said Ed and Lauren they would take this puppet, but this controlling entity is angry about it. While Ed and Lauren were going with him in the car, they were going to have a big accident and lost control of the car and miraculously survived. Strange events continued to occur with the couple at their home. They also found that the puppet constantly changed its place, and Lauren was more transparent than Ed, seeing nightmares associated with that puppet. The puppet promised them vengeance against them and all their relatives, even their daughter, who was in a boarding school. She was telling her that if you wanted me not to retaliate against you, they would send me back to Donna Wangi, my friends. Here they made sure that this ghost was still about his blood, despite all their expulsion sessions. One of these sessions was the publication of some sentences that were said at this meeting. You have to go out. You have to leave this physical entity. You are not welcome. No one has asked you to be. You are an unwanted guest. In a demonic moment, Ed and Lauren decided to gain behind Annabelle, and they put her in the basement on his table. They wrote an announcement in some local newspapers that there was an object haunted by evil spirits who wanted to see him pay $5. They did a museum in the basement, they showed Annabelle, and they showed some of the expulsion sessions they were practicing. On the day they had a friend to visit, they told him about Annabelle's story, and he asked them to see her. He went down to the basement and made a mockery of her, grabbed her, and told her you were just his stupid blood, you couldn't do anything. He threw it on the ground with force before he ran it over his foot, and if Ed and Lauren yelled at him and carried it from under his foot and told him that the curses would hit you. He mocked them and walked out of the house, and hours later the couple received a phone call telling them that their friend had been in a painful accident and miraculously escaped death. And now he's in a hospital nearby, and Ed and Lauren go and get in their car, and if they do, they meet their friend while he's anchoring her and tell them this curse is real. The puppet that mocked his inhabitant with all the evil spirits told them I watched her in the back chair driving. She was looking at me through the car mirror, that her eyes were different, that human eyes were looking alone and fierce. Here we finish this part and see you part 2 and complement the rest of the story.